Welcome to the Connected Growth Coaching Podcast, where we support women to rediscover who they are so they can thrive in all parts of their lives. Your hosts, Jen Heilman and Amanda Kingsley, share with you unique life coaching resources centered around the power of the mind and the ancient practice of feng shui. All right. This week's podcast is just me, Amanda. As in, Jen and I are not together. We usually record together. Many of you watch us record on Facebook Live, which is super duper fun. If you're not doing that, you should come on over because you can interact with us live while we're podcasting, or reply to our video with your questions. But today, it's me and a super duper duper special guest, Jess Steinman. And Jess is... let's see, what I wrote down and what I feel is that she's like our secret weapon. So let me explain. Jen and I met Jess. Oh, that was last fall, right?
Yeah, last October.
Yeah. Okay. So that was last October. We met Jess at an event for a client of ours house. And she was hosting this event about mediumship. And Jen and I were both like, all right, let's do it. Let's see what happens. Who knows? We didn't really go with any expectations. And Jess actually just completely blew our minds. I have listened to that recording many times since. That was our first introduction to your work, although we had met like online, like in Facebook social media world before that. But we hadn't really met in person, right? That's
right, exactly. Yeah. I think we were friends for something like 5 or 6 years via Facebook beforehand.
Exactly. It was like a Facebook thing.
Yes.
Which is funny because we're local, we went to the event, so obviously we're local to each other, but that's how it works. People come into your life and then it circles back around in a much deeper way when it's meant to. So since that meeting, Jess has been working with us, and we have been just soaking in her wisdom. And she's given us so much confidence and so much courage and commitment to keep doing what we're doing, because the work that she does supports us to know we're on the right track and to be inspired and to tap into our spiritual teams and to listen to our intuition. So we wanted to have her on the podcast today to sort of share that, and so that you all can access her for her amazing skills. So that being said, is there anything you want to add?
Wow, that's quite an intro. My gosh, I'd say, when people say to me, so what is it that you do, or what is it that you offer? My sort of technical list, if you will. I'm first and foremost a psychic medium, so I connect with those who have crossed over. I also read tarot and oracle cards, so I use the cards as a tool to help me tap into what your guides, your angels, your loved ones on the other side want for you to know. And then I also do different modalities of energy healing and crystal healing, and all of that comes together. I also work with essential oils. So all of that comes together when I'm doing a session with somebody or I'm working with them. All of that knowledge comes into a session. It's not just you, quote unquote, go and get a reading. It's so much more than that.
Yeah, it is. We totally feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good. So tell us, if somebody listening was feeling like they wanted to tap deeper. So we'll start with how we connect with you, and then we'll move on to some other things. But the way we connect with you is to deepen that, following our purpose, following our passion, staying in this space of authentic truth to who we are and how we're meant to serve. So there's lots of ways people come to you, and we'll tap more into some of those. But if someone wanted to tap into your work and your skills and your gifts, in that way, what could you offer someone who's looking for purpose and passion and direction?
Sure. Well, what I tell people is, my business name is In Touch with Spirit, and I say it has sort of three aspects to it. It has, of course, the spiritual mediumship work, connecting with those who have crossed over. But then there's two other pieces I find that tend to be pretty common in my sessions. One being tapping into, like I mentioned earlier, guides, angels, and looking for that greater perspective of where am I going? What am I doing? Not prediction. That's not what I do, but to help give you the bird's eye view. Because sometimes we get caught up in the day-to-day nitty-gritty stuff and we can't see the bigger picture. It's like if you've ever tried to see an impressionist painting and you're right up close to it, all you see is little dots. But you step back and you look at it from a distance and suddenly it makes a picture and a whole painting. That's what I do. I'm helping you to step back and see beyond the dots and look at the bigger picture. So that's part two, we'll say, of In Touch with Spirit. The third part is connecting with sort of that bigger spirit, whether you call it God, universe, creation, whatever it is that you call it, all that is, that connects all of us. Yeah. Because sometimes we just get caught up in our day-to-day stuff, our life stuff, and we feel disconnected. We feel completely off course or just pulled away from our purpose. And so part of what I do is just helping you to remember you're not alone. Yeah. And how do I reconnect to that part of me, to that wiser part of myself that I know is connected to everything and everyone?
Yeah, that's been so huge for us. And like it started that day at that particular event when we met you in person with we started with a couple of things, a really strong connection to our ancestors, like Jen's dad who had passed and my grandfather who had passed. So that like immediately we were like, whoa, Jess is totally connecting in alignment with where we're headed. So that was super cool. But then on that same night, we connected with another like energy source that we hadn't even thought of. Like, and it was like, I'm deciding whether or not to share who it was, but
right.
It was a really like a much bigger, more public figure. And that was really amazing. It was a way that I hadn't seen. And then since then, you've helped us connect with archangels and like animal energies and plant spirits. And so it's like, it's much bigger than like connecting with a loved one who's passed. It's like there are so many people helping you and rooting for you and on your team. Let's dig into who they are and what they have to say about you moving forward. That's what it's
exactly.
For us. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that sometimes we just need that little bit of outside perspective to get clarity. Sometimes it's just a little way of looking at something different that can help give that aha moment or can help us tune back in. And I include myself in that too, because I get lost in it sometimes as well for my own self. And what I find is, because people say to me, one of the big questions I get from people is, well, how often should I come for a reading? Because people think, well, once I've connected and I've gotten that healing from the connection with my loved ones, how often should I come? And I say to them, generally, you're going to tend to know because, first of all, your heart's going to guide you. And also, what I tell people is, come when you feel like I just need that little bit of clarity and that little bit of perspective. Not coming because I tell people, don't do the oracle abuse thing where you're coming to a reader every week or every month, like, what do I do? What do I do? Rather, coming at it from, okay, I think I know the direction I want to go in, but let's see if this is really in alignment, and let's see if there's anything else I can do to help enhance where I'm going. Yeah. That's how to know when it's time for a reading. And yes, certainly if you've experienced a loss.
Yeah. Keep going, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I was just going to say, certainly if you've experienced a loss, then definitely come back and let's work through that too, and let's see if the person comes through. Of course, there's no guarantees who or what comes through in any given session, but let's see if they come through and can help you in that healing process too. So It's a combination of all of the things that is so healing, I find, in a good reading.
Yeah. And I love that how it's not like go see Jess and she'll tell you exactly what action steps to take. That's not it at all. It's like,
Right.
I mean, sometimes
Exactly.
you do that, but it's more like you keep following your heart and your intuition and your passion and what you feel like your purpose is. And like check in with Jess for like it's like, I want to say validation, but it's that like, yeah, it's that clarity and the perspective and super helpful. Like hire a business coach if you want to know what to do next. And then,
Right. Yep.
if you're looking for that, like, am I on the right path? Like, is there something I'm missing? Like, is this where I'm supposed to be? Those little like clarity sessions are so helpful.
Yes. Yep. I tell people all the time because things come up in sessions and I'll say to somebody, okay, listen, I'm not a doctor or I'm not a lawyer or a financial advisor or a business coach or whatever it is. But I think if you connect with a doctor, a lawyer, a business coach, or whoever, they can help you in this particular area. So I help to sort of be that bridge in more ways than one to the next part of somebody's healing.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that. Bridge to the next part of someone's healing. Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah. So Jen and I are the main group of women who we work with tend to be somewhere in their midlife, like their 40s, their 50s. In many cases, they've raised a family and are like coming toward the tail end of that, or their kids have moved out. Some of them have had a long career, but they're feeling like there's something more. They're ready for a shift. So a lot of the women that we attract and that we work with are in this midlife place. It's not like a midlife crisis, but it's like
right.
a midlife reevaluation. Like what else am I supposed to do here? I feel like there's something more. And we help them sort of define that and understand and like learn how to take steps to really just love this next chapter of their life. So for those women in our community who are listening, again, I mean, it seems kind of obvious based on our last conversation that they could check in with you just for that like clarity and perspective and like zooming way out. Like you're not defined by what's happened in your life already. Like there's a much bigger picture here. How might you see, because that's generally our audience listening, how might you see being able to support those women?
So there are two ways I can see myself supporting those women. Firstly, I think that part of what I do as well is helping people to tap into and to remember their own intuitive abilities. Beautiful. We all have intuition, and that's something that is just, I teach that, I share that all the time. That is one of our gifts that was given to us to navigate through this world. Our intuition is our heart's compass. And it helps us get from place to place and experience to experience in our life. And what happens is when we're young, a lot of times, unless it's really openly talked about in a family or in a community, our intuition is shut down. It starts with shutting down creativity, starts with shutting down expression. And so our intuition is squashed very young. And a lot of times it takes people some really clear, focused attention, whether that's through meditation, through studying different classes and modalities, whatever way to help open that intuition back up. So that's part of what I do. And that's why I teach classes on intuitive development as well, is because it's just remembering. It's not that I'm teaching anybody how to do anything. I'm actually just guiding you to remember what's already there. So that's one thing that I focus on. And I think that a lot of women in the category that you're speaking of would be coming to me for.
I love that. Like, one thing that happens for me, I know when I'm communicating with you is like, okay, if Jess can be like intuitive on like level 1000, right? Then
right.
I can at least be intuitive on level 100. Like maybe
right. Yeah.
right? So that
Yes.
alone is really helpful for me, like to be around people who are beyond where you want to go, right? Like maybe someday I'll tap into medium gifts and like much deeper intuition than I already do. But it's so helpful for me to just be around you and be like, if what she's doing is possible, then I can definitely up my game a little bit.
Exactly.
Right?
It's that whole idea of you just light you take one candle and you light the next candle, and that sort of idea that we just help make each other stronger with whatever our gifts are. So that's one of
Yeah.
the things I love being able to offer.
Yeah, it's inspiring to see what's possible and then be like, okay, well I can tap into a little piece of that possibility. Okay. So that was one
Right.
thing, tapping into your intuition, and then you were going to share another thing that you thought could be really helpful.
Yes. So the other thing is that obviously with the mediumship, people come to me because they're in grief. They're missing their spouse, their child, their friend, their sibling, their parent, their whoever it might be. And it doesn't matter what kind of grief, grief is grief. Now, yes, there are certain relationships that are way more intense and way more, uh, they rock your world sort of more than others, so to speak. But on the whole, grief is grief. And so it doesn't matter when, where, how it happened. Walking through that process can be a really intense experience for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, I think especially around midlife, a lot of people are at that point where it's like, wow, I've experienced a lot of losses. And it doesn't matter how long ago they were. It could be recent. It could be a decade ago or more. But grief somewhat defines their experience.
Yeah.
And for better or for worse, sometimes it can be somebody passed and I was inspired to go and create a memorial fundraiser in their honor, and something amazing happens. But the opposite happens too, where sometimes people get really stuck. Oh, that person passed. Gosh, I don't want to celebrate, Christmas anymore because they passed around Christmas. Or, we always used to do this together on the 4th of July. We always used to go and have our picnic and go on a vacation somewhere. And now I don't want to do that, or I don't want to travel to that place anymore because it reminds me too much of them.
I'm imagining all these like past loved ones like, no, and they're like trying to get your attention. They're like, don't do that. Don't do that.
Exactly. They still want the traditions and the things that we used to do that used to bring us joy. They want us to still experience that. And so, but sometimes people do get stuck and they don't want to do that. And so, so I find myself really just kind of, I'm going to say coaching, though it's not technically coaching, but in some ways coaching with the help of those on the other side, the clients through that block, and to say, no, they want you to go and do the celebration. They want you to go and have the party or have the family get together or go take that vacation or whatever it is. May I share a quick example? Do we have time for me
Please.
share a quick story?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a woman that came to me about 5 or so years ago. And she had never had a reading before. Her daughter suggested to her going to see a medium. And she was very skeptical, but she came and sat in and decided to do an hour reading and just see what it was all about. And her husband of, I want to say 40-something years, passed suddenly from a heart attack. And they had not only been married for 40 years, but they had been dating for about, I want to say 5 to 7 years before they got married. So they obviously were a big part of one another's lives. And when he passed totally unexpectedly, it felt like her world got shut down. And she just didn't know where to turn. And that's why her daughter said to her mom, if you're not going to go seek counseling, then maybe go to a medium or maybe go to something. If you're not going to go to a support group, find something. She was just stuck. She was stuck in her grief for a long time. And she came to see me. Her husband came through clear as day, validated his presence with so many different things that it was I mean, we talked about all sorts of stuff that she knew it was him without a question. Talked about a quilt that she was making out of his old ties, and all
Oh.
these different things that
Mm-hmm.
that she knew without question. How did you know that? I said, because he's telling me. And so then towards the end of the reading, she was telling me how they had this plan to go to all 50 states and take pictures together in all 50 states. And they had gotten through all but 6 of them. And she said that she's like, I can't finish that trip. Like, it would be too much. And yeah. And I said to her, he wants you to go and finish that trip. I said, I know it may be hard, but you have to go and finish it. And I said to her, and again, I don't remember this, I got a letter later on. She actually wrote me a letter. And I said, he wants you to go finish that trip. And on the trip, you're going to see, and I mentioned like 3 or 4 different things that she was going to experience. And one was like a heart-shaped stone somewhere. Another was a rainbow, like the last night of the trip. Anyway, she sends me this letter about 6, 8 months later. And she had her notes. She took a picture of her notes, put it on one side of the sheet, and then took the picture of all the validations of the heart-shaped rock and the rainbow and the whatever else she found. And she said, now I really believe that he's with me.
Oh.
And for me,
and
seeing that and hearing,
live the rest of her life, like she gets to live in such a beautiful, full, like present way. Oh,
exactly. You know, and every once in a while she does come back to me. I see her about once a year for sort of a check-in, because she does, just around the time of his passing, she gets a little sad and feels a little bit lost. And so she just kind of comes to check in with him. And he's like, nope, keep doing what you're doing. You're here for a reason. You know, so it's so rewarding to have those experiences and to watch this woman who came in such grief living her life.
That's amazing. Oh, I love that so much. And I love what you said about some people are struggling, whether it's with grief or whether it's with deciding what their next move is, or whether it's like their next step, their next chapter. Sometimes you don't want to see a therapist. You don't want to see a counselor. You don't want to hire a coach. You're like just looking for that different modality that will help you like open your creativity and step in and move toward your next direction. So I think there's so many healers and so many people out there like Jess who can help you make that next move. Maybe they do end up in therapy or counseling or coaching afterwards, but it comes from a different place. Like, there's just so many doorways in life, and I think that working with someone like you is a doorway. It's just another way to expand and shift things in your life.
Absolutely, yes, I agree 100%. I tell people that I know readings aren't for everybody, but for those who are ready and those who are open, it can really be that door opening, can be that bridge to something else.
Yeah. This has been so great. Is there anything else you feel called personally or by spirit to share with our listeners before we close?
I would just say, because I'm just feeling like it's important for your listeners to remember, because a lot of people say, okay, well, how do I even start with tapping into my intuition? And I tell people, just, you might not be able to put focused study time on reading up on how to develop your intuition, but I would say just start by paying attention to those little feelings or those little nudges that you get. We all get them, but then a lot of times we dismiss them or we analyze them. We try to figure out the bigger meaning, or we just go, no, that's my imagination. That can't be because of A, B, C, or D. Instead, just pay attention to those. Even if you don't act on them yet, even if you just start by listening to them and acknowledging them, that's a huge first step. Then you can take it from there and listen more and pay attention more and develop them more if you want to. But by listening to those little gut feelings, you're going to be amazed what starts to happen.
Like a really common one is like when you get that like voice in your head that says, call so-and-so or reach out to so-and-so. And then your brain is like, no, you haven't talked to them in years, or you don't have time for a full conversation, or like your brain moves on to all the like excuses and the reasons why not. But that one alone, I think, it happens to people a lot, and it can be so rewarding because you end up making that phone call or sending that text, and then that person is like, you have no idea how timely this is. Like, thank you, right? I feel like that's
exactly happens all the time.
Yeah. So start there, but yeah, listen to those little whispers.
Absolutely, because that's how the process starts, and then from there, anything is possible.
Cool. I love it. Thank you so, so much. We will connect to your website. Is that the best place for people to find you, or?
Yep, just go to my website. I'm also on Facebook too, so they can find me on there.
Great. So if you don't want to wait for to find the link in the show notes, that's In Touch with Spirit, right? .com?
Exactly. InTouchWithSpirit.com.
Yeah. Easy peasy. Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day. As always, thanks for listening. If you learned something today that can help the people in your circle, please help us get the word out by sharing. When you leave us a rating and review on iTunes, it not only warms our hearts, but it helps people find us. We are eternally grateful for your support, and we're looking forward to connecting with you next week. Until then, you can find the show notes at www.connectedgrowthcoaching.com. You can grab your journal and then get your shui on.